Oh, work. Cute. Okay. Oh, hi. Hello and welcome. Oh, I gotta get back a yawn. Oh, goodness. How's everyone doing on today? Today is the day of the Great Conjunction. It's also the day of the winter solstice. I want to say Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter are conjuncting in Aquarius right now. I guess Uranus is pretty early in Taurus, so there's some loose square action there. I don't think Leo or Scorpio has anything right now. Mars is in Aries, Venus is in Sag now. Is anything in Leo? I don't know. That doesn't matter. Anyway, it's the end of the year ish. End of 2020. There's like less than 20 days left. There's 30 days in December or 31. Should be 30 days because New Year's is literally a week after Christmas and that's like 7 days, right? 30 days in December. Yeah. So there's like 9-ish days left. We're officially in Capricorn season. And Capricorn to me feels like a very foundational energy, I guess. And so with Saturn and Jupiter moving into Aquarius, it kind of feels like if the foundation is already there, great things can happen. Now, I don't know if that foundation is going to be tested, but if it can't stand the weight of the foundation, things are just going to like crumble. Or if the foundation can't support the weight of whatever is built on top, then it's going to crumble like the tower, right? So I guess it doesn't really matter. Now, I feel like it's also going to move forward whatever intention we've had or carried. Or it's going to move it forward in the way that we've moved forward. Oh my gosh, these cards are gorgeous. No, I knew they were gorgeous. Whoa, hold up. Y'all see this? There's a card back in here. What the freak is that about? Judgment. Why was Judgment like I don't know why Judgment was flipped over. Conqueror of Swords, Knight of Swords, and the Two of Cups. Here's another one. Oh my gosh, what the world? Oops. This card is the Two of Coins. So Judgment and the Two of Coins. I mean, that pretty much speaks of choosing the experience that we're going to have. So again, I guess to further what I was saying, here's another one. The Ten of Wands. The way that we sort of carry ourselves, I guess, will be determined upon the experience that we have. Here's another one. The Sovereign of Swords, Queen of Swords, next to the Sovereign of Coins. Oh my goodness. The Anchor. What did I do with these cards last time? The Lovers. So that's our decisions, or maybe more so our decision-making process, really affecting things moving forward. Because it almost feels like the weight of our decisions has been lifted. But since we're human, we still decide whether or not we'll pick up where we left off, or whether we'll leave it behind. And I think that's kind of sort of that Two of Pentacles energy. And I guess, again, that's more so like why it's important how we're proceeding the way that we're proceeding. Because it's like if your sentence gets forgiven, but you haven't been rehabilitated, then odds are you'll probably repeat or do some other kind of crime that will land you back where you were. And I feel like there's been, I guess, maybe a cry for forgiveness of this and forgiveness of that. But again, it's like if we haven't done anything to change our ways, then we'll just end up right back in the same situation. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to be using this deck. I'm going to be pulling 12 cards to see kind of sort of what we've learned this year. There's the Seeker of Wands, which is Page of Wands energy. Seeking the flame, the fire that doesn't burn. How many of these cards are there? The Seeker of Cups, another Seeker. That's interesting because on the other channel, I just got the energy of the Queen of Swords and the Queen of Pentacles. And I was like, that's very much this like logical, analytical thoughts to things side of the brain, which isn't necessarily about the conception of it. But here we have the Seekers of the Flame and the Seekers of Cups that precede even the realm of thought. And then here we have the Conqueror of Cups. So we're graduating from the Seeker to the Conqueror and the Cup suit, which is interesting. It's not necessarily good, but it's interesting. It's not necessarily bad either. But I feel like the Conqueror of Cups going from the Seeker can kind of sort of get lost and inundated in whatever energy it's in. It's like it can get consumed, basically. Okay. Oh, goodness. So I'm going to be using these, and then I'm going to be clarifying with the other edition. I believe this is the Ascendant edition of the Weaver Tarot, and the other one is the Journeyman edition of the Weaver Tarot. So let's see what this year has had the opportunity to bring us in the shape and form of lessons. I don't know if I said what I was doing. That's what I'm doing. Excuse me. All right. And I guess I'll just pull these right off the top. And then I'll give these a quick shuffle. I don't recall seeing the title card, but maybe that's fine. No, these should be okay, because I just used these. But I majored, minored, recorded this thing. It should be fine. It should be fine. I'm kind of excited, I guess. I'm just like so ready for what's coming next. Also, there was this thing I was like, I want my degree before I do like anything, and before I devote too much time, energy, or effort to these other things that are calling my attention. And now that I have it, it's like I don't know. It hasn't arrived yet. And again, it's interesting. So, and I guess maybe that was a lesson or a foretelling of sorts that completion would be happening. Because January this year, I got a degree for last year in the mail. And I'm like, does this mean that I don't have to do the work because I already got the degree? And my professor was like, oh, now you know what it'll look like after you finish this work, and it holds some weight. So it's about more than just a piece of paper. It's about more than just a vision. Like, we still have to do the work to get it. And so I'm going to be getting my actual degree here in a few weeks that actually has a corrected date. And I guess that's like the only difference is the time. Everything like the signature is legit. It's a legit degree. But the date, it was just earlier, like a year earlier than when I actually get the completion. Than when I actually completed it. But again, it's been that thing that's like, I guess it like almost solidified the potential for it. And maybe there'll be a theme in that area about solidifying potential and things that precede other things but that still require us to do our part for it to fully come to fruition, for it to hold any weight, for it to be recognized. So here we go. Are we doing this by month? Zodiac season? It'll just be 12 things. On the 12th thing of Christmas. There's 12 days of Christmas. How many days of Hanukkah are there? Is this... I should ask Siri. Is it like 10? I think it's between 7 and 10. And then Kwanzaa has 7, I think. Because I think there's 3, and then the candle in the middle. Now, how many candles are on the menorah? It might be like 9. Because it might be 441. Hey Siri, how many days is Hanukkah?
Hanukkah starts the evening of November 28, 2021, and ends the evening of December 6, 2021.
Well, how many days is that? Hey Siri, what is Hanukkah?
Hanukkah is a Jewish festival commemorating the recovery of Jerusalem and subsequent rededication of the Second Temple at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire in the 2nd century BC. Would you like to hear more?
Yes, please.
It is also known as the Festival of Lights. Hanukkah is observed for 8 nights and days, starting on the 25th day of Kislev according to the Hebrew calendar, which may occur at any time from late November to late December in the Gregorian calendar.
Okay. I wonder if that's lunar or astrological then, if it has a range of dates. Well, what was November 28th? I guess I can look at November 28th and see if that was a thing. Let's see. Let's check real quick. So it is 8 days. November 28th. That was almost a month ago. That's wild to me. That's a while. Okay. Sun was in Sagittarius. Moon was in Taurus. So it's not necessarily lunar. So I don't know. Not for me to know in this moment. How am I feeling this? Kind of like this. Oh, soon enough, I'll have a new place. I'll have more space. I'm excited. I'm gonna do this, where this is like all of these, and this is all of these. And then this will be as I need it. I just feel like pulling more. The 8 of Coins, diligence and hard work. Accurate. That card has been coming out a lot lately, hasn't it? I think the 8 of Coins was featured fairly heavily in the last video or the one before. So, let's get into this. The 8 of Coins is all about diligence. It's all about hard work. It's all about mastery. And in a Pentacles way, mastery typically comes through the form of repetition. And it's a repetition that, or it's like a repeatability where it is always what it is. And it feels very fixed, even though it's like first decan of Virgo. But it's still the element of Earth. But it's mutable. Okay, yeah. But I feel like it's mutable in the fact that it's able to adapt to the situation and circumstances, but it's still that fixed element in that it is what it is. Like, it doesn't necessarily change too much, but it can accommodate for the different environmental factors. And so the thing about the 8 of Pentacles is that it's like it's very easy to hold certain spaces when everything is good and there's not an issue, a worry, a care, a trouble, a problem in the world. But what happens when we enter the space of challenge? Do we crack and crumble, Or do we reinforce? Now, this reinforcement is most effectively done through the space of self, because what it does is it positions us to be able to it's like partly be less dependent on it positions us to be less dependent on our circumstances or our environment or the people around us or the availability of the people around us, because we all go through things, right? And as humans, like, we all have our moments where we need to address self. And if there comes a time when there's some kind of, I guess, a conflict of interests, it's not in any selfish way, but we have to align to self. But the balance between self and others is important in the fact that it fosters an understanding of that. And that being like when we have to take time for self, when we can't give as much, when we have to do whatever. And when it's almost like when certain things are beyond our scope and beyond our reach. And when certain things, like when it's not our work, when it's not our job, when it has to be taken upon, when someone else, I guess, has to take it upon themselves to do whatever it is that they need to do. Just like we have to take it upon ourselves to do what we need to do. And it's not that, again, we don't get assistance or help, but it's at the end of the day, we're responsible for self. And at the end of the day, we can only put and pour into, it's like we can only build ourselves, because anything else is like a supportive structure. And while it's good for holding the shape of the structure, it doesn't give any, it doesn't serve any purpose outside of support. Like, it's not functional, or it has limited functionality, because again, a support is there to support, but it's the building, it's the form and the shape itself that gives or dictates that function. Now, there is this upper tier, and then there's the second tier, and then there's this other one. We have the tooth, we have 2 teeth and a key. Then we have roots, and then we have another key and 2 pinnacles, or 2 crystals. Now this is very much so a pentacle formation, because what it does is, at the most base level, we have the 2 coins that have the crystals. The crystals being more so the 3D structural physical thing. Slightly above that is the key. So after we grow beyond that level, it opens us up to this level of connection, where we have the roots. And the roots are all about connection. They're all about interconnectedness that promotes the growth of something. And it's very much so like, I do my part, you do your part, and when everyone's doing their part, the overall plant flourishes, because we're able to take in from this more base level, like in the underground, we're able to take in the nutrients that we need in the absence of light. And then beyond that is another key, which unlocks this higher level of wisdom with the 2 teeth. And it's this balanced wisdom. It's a wisdom that exists on both sides of the equation. And so what it does is it opens and unlocks another realm beyond that. And the realm beyond that is the one of creation. Because here we see the hand holding the threaded needle. Oh my gosh, not the Norns, girl. It puts us in the space to weave our own create our own, masterwork our own. But again, it's something very, very practiced. And this, it's interesting because this is basically the summation, the summary, like what I just said was basically the summary of the whole 50-minute video I just did, which is interesting. Don't gotta worry about that anymore. So let's get into this. Oh, that's also interesting because there's like this 2, 2, 2, but with 2 keys in the middle. So I guess these are the 2 keys in the middle. This is the physical in connection on this one side. This is the physical in connection on the other side. Now, I would be tempted to say like this is masculine, feminine, light and dark, what have you. But it's this understanding of polarity. It's my personal belief, I guess, that polarity doesn't stop at 5D, and so it's not going anywhere. Duality doesn't stop at 5D. Like, it's a construct, again, that I believe exists beyond that. And so the difference of polarity and duality for me is that polarity implies a certain charge, right? Opposite, negative, and it's very sort of coded to antagonism or opposition. But it's actually when positive and negative behave as they should that flow happens. Electricity, a current can be formed, right? And so duality, moving more into that, is an understanding and an acceptance of that. Well, duality is always duality, but it can be like a lesser polarized form of that, where we're using those charges to create a current instead of sort of being subjected to one that already exists. Which kind of sort of takes me back to like filling old channels and re-etching new energetic channels. It's what is that? It's like wiping the chip and recoding it. Now, there are certain things that were designed in a way that they're not reprogrammable, and those things may fall away. Some things we may discover can be salvaged in some way, shape, form, or fashion, but may just have to be salvaged. And if they can't be salvaged, then it's just junk, right? But I think sometimes we kind of sort of get held up in the junk. Anyway, where do I want to start this? Let's start over here. Oh, the High Sage. The Five of Swords. I've been seeing the Five of Swords so much. Hey, Capulus. How are you doing today? The Five of Cups. And the Seeker of Coins. And then there's that key. Well, there's a coin with the key and a coin with the tooth. This is interesting because, like I said, I just saw the Five of Swords has been coming up a lot. I'm doing amazing. Thank you for asking. I'm doing really well. I'm just like in this. I've been resting a lot lately because I've been working a lot lately. But I'm ready for this next chapter to come in while also enjoying this period of rest. So in the High Sage, there's the light moon and the dark moon. With the Five of Swords, it's this energy of knowing. Five of Swords, Five of Cups, Seeker of Coins. like last time, it was this energy of knowing the frontier beyond the frontier. Because a lot of times when we see the Five of Swords, it's inherently coded as excessive. But sometimes that's the perception from the outside. Sometimes it is that Pyrrhic victory where we pay a price that is so high in claiming a victory that it's almost like no matter what you win, it's not going to make up for what you paid. And so in that case, it's better to walk away or to seek a different route, a different method of acquisition. But here, it feels like something that was very much so worth it. Because in the fight is the experience. And so we could have given up. We could have fallen prey to our circumstances and situations. All of it would have been understandable. And I think that's what the Five of Swords and the Five of Cups is here, kind of sort of signifying. Like, if we would have fallen under the weight of the pressure of everything, it would have been very understandable. But with the High Sage, if we chose to continue fighting, knowing that there was something beyond the pain, the fear, the uncertainty, the echoes and ripples of ego, that it would put us in a position to receive something beyond. And this something beyond, it feels very much so like something that comes later than that particular instance. And so what it does is it positions us to, like, it's not skipping the line, but it reminds me of like pre-ordering, right? It puts us in a position to pre-order something instead of showing up on the day of. And so there's this energy of like when you, because it's like you can theoretically wait the same amount of time. You can wait that time now for a guarantee, or you could wait that time later and basically hope that the thing is still in stock. And it's just a preference. Which would you prefer to do? Would you prefer to have the sure thing, or would you prefer to take your chances? Now, there's no guarantee that the line will be long later, or that product availability is limited, that you're going to miss out on anything. Which is why I feel like a lot of this was relegated to the area of self. And it's interesting that the High Sage showed up and the Five of Swords is here, because the High Priestess was one of the last cards. And here's the Seeker again. But before we had the Seeker of Wands and the Seeker of Cups. And that was very much so on the more, on the side that the side that pre-exists, I guess. But this is on the actual side. And there's this energy of like, my mom was watching Dr. Phil the other day. I've never really watched Dr. Phil, so I never noticed how over it he just seems. But there was this one girl, was it her? No. Yes, it was her. And she tried to strong arm and basically manipulate the direction of her episode in a way. It's like she tried to produce her own episode, but because she was dealing with an energy that didn't respond to demands, she didn't get anything she wanted. And Dr. Phil was like, you didn't get this because you demanded it. Had you asked for this, I would have given it to you. But I'm not going to encourage this manipulative behavior of yours where you think that you can operate in this way and everything just falls in line. Like, that's not how this works. This is my show. You are a guest. You are a visitor. And why are you even here in the first place? Like, what you're demanding, you can access outside of the scope of me and my platform. And it's kind of sort of this energy here, because he was like, what are you willing to do to get out of the situation? What are you willing to change? What are you willing to stop doing? And she would not answer the question. And I think that's been the question that we've been asked this whole time, this whole year, basically. What are we willing to do to get what it is that we want, to be where it is that we want to be, or to reclaim what it is that we want to reclaim? And honestly, it seems that for a lot of us, the answer is nothing. We're not willing to do anything, really. We don't want to have to do it. We just want it. And we're going to continue to operate as if it's already done when it's not. And that's the thing. It doesn't blow my mind, but that's why I'm not shocked or surprised at the response that we've had to a lot of things. Because it seems like more often than not, people aren't actually willing to do what it is that they need to get what they want, or to be where they want to be. And there's this very sort of like hierophant sort of structure. It's like, okay, well, if I want this, then I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I have to do the other thing. And what it does is it reinforces this set progression. But in reality, maybe for a little bit more work, we can operate outside of that dynamic and claim this ability to really reinforce what it is that we wish to experience, have, achieve, or whatever. But it's not a passive process. I'll look at this later. So on the other side, and again, like the Eight of Pentacles is the theme here. Eight of Coins, we have the Sovereign of Swords, which is the Queen of Swords energy. I think she was one of the cards that was flipped over. It's also interesting that the Queen of Swords is here, because a while ago when I used the Wild Unknown Tarot, the Queen of Swords was here, and the Father of Swords was here, and I talked about that before. And the Eight of Pentacles was also there. The Eight of Pentacles was the web that the Queen of Swords had created that keeps her experience kind of sort of structured. Now, next is the Conqueror of Cups. We see that Conqueror of Cups again. And last time I saw the Conqueror of Cups, I was like, oh, that's not necessarily good. That's not necessarily bad. It's this energy of being intoxicated on whatever feeling we were seeking. But without this, without like a Pentacles energy, or without a fixed energy at the very least, it doesn't hold it. And water is too fluid. It takes the shape and form of whatever vessel you put it in. So that could work out any number of ways. Oh, but then we have the Ruler of Cups, which is the Scorpionic energy. And the Ace of Swords. This is interesting. We have the Sovereign, the Conqueror, the Ruler, and the Ace. Over here we have a Seeker. Swords, Cups, Cups, Swords. I feel like on this side is a lot of questions. And it feels like questions of whether or not how we're going about things actually leads us to what we want it to. This side already feels like a lot more conscious, like a lot more higher levels of thinking and perception that are trying to be filtered down. And it's like it's trying to make itself aware to us as we're going through everything on this side. And so this is difficult. I may dip into the clarifiers. Why not? I'll pull 2 or 3. So, here's the Sovereign of Cups and Judgment. Sovereign of Cups is the Queen of Cups and the Judgment card. Okay. So yeah, this is what I was saying. It's this energy that really comes down and it asks us if we're sure of everything that we think we are. And with the Conqueror of Cups and the Ruler of Cups, it's like we're really quick to not only move in that direction or be moved in that direction, but also to take a really, really firm stance in it. But the Queen of Swords into the Ace of Swords, to me, implies that we don't even have the grip or grasp on the situation that we think we do. But emotionally, we respond in the same way every time. And in the space of that emotional response, we feel justified. And what it does is it creates this lens, this filter, this film, honestly, that distorts a more purified, elevated sort of spirituality. And that's what the Sovereign of Cups and Judgment is about. It's about the limited perception that we have, because the Sovereign of Cups is pre-High Priestess energy, and the High Sage is over here, and it's a different deck. So, uh, anyway, I'm sorry, I'm gonna lose it. Let me stop. So the high, not the high, pre-High Priestess, pre-High Sage energy is our grasp on spirituality, and judgment is the calls that we make from that very limited, still limited point of view and perception. Because emotionally, again, it's like we're moving forward with this. We go from the seeker to the conqueror, from the conqueror to the ruler, and then on an outside perspective, here is the sovereign with judgment, which it in the emotional fluidized body, what it does is it keeps us on a path that's already been set. But again, going from the Sovereign of Swords to the Ace of Swords means that we don't have the grasp on this that we thought we did. And that everything is much more expansive than we thought it was. And that's one of the things that's been, it's like it's been trying to be illuminated to us. But there's like so much confirmation bias and redirection that it may have been difficult to see. I feel like there's a heavy repurposing energy here because, again, it's that element of fluidity where the flow was already established. But with this high sovereign ruler energy, it puts us in a position of us feeling like we're in charge. But in reality, whatever grasp we had on the situation with the queen, sovereign, it's lost. Like with the Ace of Swords, our hand isn't even on the sword anymore. It's like, oh my gosh, what is this? All of a sudden, you wake up, you have amnesia, you don't know how to use the sword anymore. When you were the queen, you were the sovereign. And it is this energy of something that's kind of sort of been passed down through generations. But it's almost like a vision that's been passed down. And it's almost like we've never really questioned something. I guess it would be different for everybody. This is not necessarily how I first saw this going, but that's fine. But I think a lot of people have been able to see that when it comes to the suit of water, in some ways it's more apparent that the systems that were weren't necessarily effective. But in other ways, I would literally flip if this is somebody. Drop me an email. Come on, I'm ready to start this next chapter. I can start like right now. It's not gonna unlock, so I'll check that later. I feel like in some ways, like in the way of like how we treat each other, and maybe even in ways of the environment, then I feel like that has been illuminated to us. But maybe when it comes to like how we use spirituality or what that looks like, it might not have been. And it's almost like there's a stagnation somewhere. Something is blocked somewhere. But we don't see it. It's almost like it's pinched. And so it would create a lot of pressure. But since there's like the increase in pressure, it flows more. And so we think we get more. And it's like we're satisfied with that instead of maybe wondering or looking at releasing that tension and pressure. I don't know. Like this side, this is like beyond me. So I'm trying. And so what brings this all together is the Four of Cups, which is interesting. Because typically the Four of Cups is the space of a missed opportunity. To me, I feel like this kind of sort of clarifies that in some ways we've kind of sort of missed the point. And it's about seeing above and beyond. Because on one side, we have one cup that stands on three cups. On the other side is two cups that stands on three cups that are like. With the five, it's like it fleshes it out from this like two-dimensional. This is kind of sort of like one-dimensional plane to this like XYZ like length, width, and height plane. And so again, at just the four, there's a certain depth, there's a certain breadth that's missing. It's very unidirectional. And again, it's that pinched energy where it increases the pressure so it flows more, but it's also restrictive. And it's almost like if we release the pressure, we would get just as much, if not more, total volume flowing than if like it were moving faster. But there was less of it. And so it's this pinched nerve. It's a bunch of pinched nerves. Is this the... Oh, it's the Five of Coins. On this side is the Five of Coins. Five of Cups. Five of Cups. Five of Swords. Five of Coins. This side is still missing out. This is that lack of cohesion between the two of these. What coins do we have, though? We have... Oh, I might have to put my reading glasses back on for this one. Or I can just put it in the camera. Maybe. Let's see. There's the tooth. There's a key. There's some roots. There's a diamond. And I think that one's a rose. Let's see. tooth, key, diamond, roots, and yeah, I think that one's a rose. So the only one that exists here that isn't there is the rose, which symbolizes like love and freshness and verdancy. But there's no thorns here. And so it's like on this side is this element of almost some kind of superiority complex spiritually. But what it does is it actually separates us. And I feel like it's this energy, and again, this is my own personal belief. It's about being one of the all, or a piece of the all. Instead of, it's about being an individualized piece of the all, where we still look into that unity consciousness where we're all one, but where we can still maintain our individuality, where we can still maintain the uniqueness that is us. And I guess the precision that is this singular aspect of an entirety. Because that's what gets things to flow, right? Like I said earlier, it's about the electrons doing what the electrons do, the protons do what the protons do, the neutrons do what the neutrons do, and that's what creates this current of electricity where we're all operating as this single circuit, but of these individualized kind of sort of moving parts that can interwork with each other. The balance of spirituality and practicality, exactly. And with this Five of Pentacles over here, because like we go from a crystal to a diamond, so that to me reads like heavily focused on the financial, heavily focused on manifesting things, where it's like from a broader perspective, it's like we're hyper focused on one aspect of the entire experience, whereas if we took a bigger approach, then the details would sort of fill themselves in. And it's about zooming out, but also holding this reverence for self. Because self is like sacred, in my opinion at least. Like the all is sacred, but self is equally as sacred. Now let's see what exists between these two. The Six of Swords and the Ruler of Wands. So Six of Swords is about movement. Oh, and look, we get the full rose here. Oops. There's the full rose. A. And then here's that Ouroboros and the ruler of wands. There we go. These cards are gorgeous. Sorry, they are. Now it's interesting that on the Six of Swords side is related to all that water. Right? So it's like after we understand that the picture is larger than what we think it is, it puts us in a space to navigate over those waters without being fixed in them. Because we go from the Conqueror of Cups to the Ruler of Cups overlaid with the Sovereign of Cups to the Six of Swords, which is traditionally moving on to calmer waters. And so what it does is, it's like it puts us in a position to navigate that space of oneness. It's almost like fluidized consciousness. But again, water takes the shape and form of whatever vessel. So we take universal waters, but we shape it to the form and the shape that is us in our individual experience. Well, we'll see, Capulus. I mean, it's dope in theory. Take it as it resonates is my mantra here. But on the other side, after all this 5 energy is the ruler of swords, is the ruler of wands. And the ruler of wands in this deck, to me, reads, because we have the Ouroboros energy, that's being in control of one's own ego. That's our ego being in check, to the point where it puts us in an energy to be thoughtful beyond our own experience, to hold grander visions, but to also understand sort of like a balance at the same time. No problem, Capulus. It's what I aim to do here, I guess, sometimes. But I'm not just rambling. And that's what this 8 of Pentacles is. Because again, we have 2 different sides and then a key. 2 more sides and a key. 2 different sides, and then that leads to the threaded needle, where we come into the point where we're weaving and creating ourself, our piece of the tapestry. It's like a patchwork quilt, and everyone does their own little square, and then at the end we bring it together. And so it's this recognition that together it creates a quilt. Individually, we do our part, and as an individual in a collective, we hope for some kind of cohesion between what we do and what other people do, but ultimately at the end of the day, we don't really have too much of an influence on that. And so it also involves a certain amount of trust in the collective at large at the same time. And I don't think I was going to complete this, but I don't think I will. Because, I mean, I guess it's this. So, now the bottom of the deck is the 8 of Cups. And over here, oops, it is the 4 of Wands. I thought it was the card back for a second. And there is a wishbone here in this 4 of Wands, and a coin, and 2 hands. And I feel like the wishbone here, now this may be later, but it feels like it's about entering this space where it's not like my vision, my wish against your vision and your wish, and whoever gets the bigger piece of the wishbone is the person whose wish gets fulfilled. Well, what is this? The 9 of Swords? Because it's like, and then what, the 4 of Swords under that. There's this very much so like, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind type of energy. When we're so occupied within ourselves that it limits that vision, that further vision. Thank you. It's the Weaver Tarot. I saw them on Instagram earlier in the year. First, I got this edition, thinking it was this edition. I thought it was the dark one. I got the light one. I was like, oh my gosh, I can barely see these cards. I mean, now I can, which is amazing. Weaver edition, Journeyman edition. I got 2 of the tarot decks instead of getting 1 of the Oracle decks, so eventually I'll probably get at least 1 of the Oracle decks. Maybe I'll get both, because I'm like that. But that's what it does. And these 2 together, it takes us out of this competitive state, right? Which I think it's gorgeous, because it's like our voice is heard, but we still have a part. This is what we were supposed to have learned. This is what we had the opportunity to learn this year. Or that was the intention when I started. It still is. And there's still time to this year. Because nothing happens in a vacuum. And everything influences everything. At least to some microscopic degree. I feel like I want some advice. I don't know what Oracle deck I would use with these. I guess I'll use the Angelarium, because why not? We'll see what the Angelarium has to say about this. Is this the Angelarium deck? Oh no, that feels like the Vedic astrology cards. Oh, it is. I haven't used those in a while. I could use them, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. 1 second. Where is it? Where is it? Hello? Oh, it's right here. No, that's not it either. Okay. I guess I'm gonna hunt for this one. Anybody been calling out to the angels and ain't got an answer? Figure it out. We can't give you the answers on the test. Wouldn't be much of a test if we did that. You have everything you need within you. And stuff like that. Right. But honestly, it feels like a moment where we decide the trajectory, the direction, how we respond to ourselves and others. It feels like a moment of decision. And that's why it can't be influenced, because free will. Samikio better not come out. Okay, what angel do we have for this? Cute. Bottom of the deck is Matariel, Angel of Rain. Yep, Matariel, Angel of Rain. And we got Gavora, left hand, Judgment. There's Judgment that came out again, featuring Judgment. Judgment, to me, again, it's the space of that decision. And decisions, choices, your will is honored. And so however you choose to walk is honored. I feel like we've, in a lot of ways, kind of sort of created this distance between action and reaction, where it's almost some strange form of entitlement where we feel that we're free to act, behave in whatever way we want to and not have to face any negative consequence. Or we try to like get out of negative consequence. And instead of it being a thought necessarily of like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, it's like, oh, well, I shouldn't have to do this and I shouldn't have to do that, and people do worse and blah, 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 whatever. And that's that bypassing energy. I feel like Blooming Rose. Well, I'm about to be done, but thank you for popping in. I hope you're doing well. Happy winter solstice, great conjunction, all that astrological stuff. It feels like a return of like universal and cosmic law, to the point where like it's that equal and opposite reaction that's going to be happening. And it's our job to maintain action and what we put out. We can't control what it is that we receive. And sometimes it's this weird quantum entangled energy that is like we feel justified in reacting to a situation in whatever way we react to a situation. But it's like if we react in that way, then it justifies the action, even if the reaction happens before the action. And so we come into the space of allowing the scales to balance themselves, where we maintain a certain space and everything outside then conforms to that space. And I think that's also what the Eight of Pentacles is about. It's about understanding both sides on this ground level, in this mental, astral sort of level, and then coming up to the spiritual level, where we sort of integrate everything and we begin to weave and create. I still need these. Okay, so let's look into Gavura. Oh, goodness. Left leg. Here she is. I believe it's a she. It may not be. So the fifth emanation. Hold up, wait. I might have to switch my glasses. I don't have to, but I will. 1 second. These have more magnifying power. I guess I could just grab the little magnifying glass. Yeah, here we go. I don't know why it took me. Oh, I do know why it took me this long. Okay. So, left hand judgment, the fifth emanation, the hand that separates the rule of law that brings order to the world. Gavura assesses what is just, helping us overcome our adversaries both without and within. Hers is the power to cleave apart a unified whole and leave its component pieces. It is a trait that commands as much fear as respect because it comes in inherent violence. She does this without enmity. It is an act that must be committed to create balance. The red orb exists as a boundary, closed to the unworthy. Gavura's position at the center of its pillar defines that pillar's trait of severity. Her push against chesed, on the opposite side of the tree, is met with equal and opposite resistance. Without both of them in equal measure, we have no means of maintaining healthy relationships. We must have judgment to discern what is healthy for us, so that we can bring it into our lives and embrace it. Found in law, bravery, and punishment. That's interesting. I mean, why not the ones about balance, right? So, I mean, I feel like that pretty much sums up. I feel like that's a nice, like, that's kind of sort of what we started with. And then I think it was on this video when I was talking about the things that we do for self and then the things that we do for others and the state and condition that we kind of sort of have to be in to do whatever. But it is this balancing again. And I think that's it, honestly. I feel like it's not necessarily self-explanatory, but there's nothing more that I need to say. And then I guess I'll read Matario. Why not? I feel like I'm going to read some more. I'm going to read some more. Whoa, what time is it? Ooh, 5:56. Okay, I gotta go in like 4 minutes. I got stuff to do. What am I doing? Matario. Okay, I forgot. Life is good. I'm blessed. Here's Matario. Under Matariel is Suckloff, Angel of Verdancy. That's cute. Angel of Rain, Angel of Verdancy. Together, they make the world green. So, Matario. Matario's touch is felt, seen, and heard. Its presence is heavy, filling the air, saturating the ground. Matariel is heralded by thunder clapping through the sky, signaling change and shift. Blue lunar storm year. Thunder. There is a great migration coming, and it arcs like lightning. The potentiality from one body is moving to another, a precarious transference, a swift communion like the arrow taking its target. Awareness is paramount for the journey. Don't try to create an outcome for your future. Be in the moment, let the rain fall where it may. Signs are a fountain, a cup, and an arrow. So I'm going to put Matario here because all of this water. I'm going to put Gavura here because this makes sense with that 5 of swords, 5 of cups, type of basically everything I was talking about in the beginning. And so I feel like I need one more card to do this. No problem, Capulus. Glad to be of service. Oh. Bina. Nah, I could take her, but I'm not. I ain't gonna do it. Alright. The card in the middle. I'm not gonna do a card in the middle. I don't think I need a card in the middle. Because the card in the middle is all about integrating these two different aspects. It's about practice. It's about repetition. It's about stuff like that. Practice makes perfect. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I just said that. Whatever. Okay. So, final messages time. I'm not going to get a final messages from the Angelarium, but I will shuffle them. I will. Sure. But I'll get this one last. Let's start with this deck. This is interesting. I don't know. It's interesting because, again, I feel like sometimes we think that we're operating outside of a box. But whenever we play that polarity game, we're still in the same axis. You don't escape polarity by moving to the other end of it. It just reinforces that polarity. It's like if you're on a teeter-totter, right? Or a seesaw. If you put more weight on one side, it just, like, you're not getting off of the thing. It just tips you in the other direction, and to prevent collapse, then you go back in the other direction. And so it keeps this perpetual back and forth happening. All right. Last one. Final messages. Okay, sure. Ooh! I like that one. You may remember that card, Capulus. It's that 10 of Pentacles, that stained glass window. Love that energy. That feels like inheritance. That's the inheritance of a legacy. And whereas we kind of sort of prioritize that diamond, if you can see it. There we go. Where we kind of sort of prioritize that diamond, or where we saw in the 5. Or was it 4? one of those Pentacles cards, the crystals had turned into diamonds. And it's like the diamond is almost guaranteed in a way. Like earth is the last element. So if you work with the other ones, it has to be. And so it's about fixing the randomness of life. And so that's why sometimes when it comes to certain things, I'm not surprised at the outcome. I was like, this is literally like what I've been doing, all of the work I've been doing for. So am I surprised at this outcome? No. Like this was the only way for it to be. Doesn't mean I'm not grateful and appreciative of it. And still just like, oh my gosh, like, wow. But then I'm like, oh yeah, well, what else would it have been? But when we prioritize that and we make that our primary, then it takes away, it's like it gets us to be inefficient with our energy or something like that. Okay. Under that is the Nine of Swords again. That Nine of Swords. I feel like the Nine of Swords in this case, kind of sort of like it was earlier, it's about seeing beyond and in some ways being blind to the program. It's like Two of Swords energy, where we trust that divine sight more than we trust the physical sight. And so it's like this blinding that happens. And affirmations, law of attraction, we sort of reject our reality all the time. But it's different because it's not rejecting, it's accepting. And it's creating without the intention of necessarily overriding. Because when we intend to override, it's like two things are competing for the same space. But when we create, it's like we're free to use more bandwidth. We're free to use more space. There's more resources, right? Instead of like reallocating resources, it's like we're just using more resources in a way. I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, don't ask me. Because honestly, that's something that we discover for ourselves. And again, like, life is hard. This year has been full of all kinds of things, and it's very human to have whatever experience that we've been having. But we can also take it as an opportunity to see beyond and grow and learn and to be, in some ways, tested and tried, but in other ways to just put into action and put into motion what it is that we've been sort of getting. Yeah, and that's that, I guess. So in this deck, final messages. Cool work. Ooh, bottom of the deck is the Three of Cups. This Three of Cups is interesting because we have this moon thing happening again. Now, first we saw the High Sage where they were side by side. They're still interlocked. And these interwoven moons to me read as it's the subtle nature of reality cooperating with the greater subtle nature of reality. It's the subtle nature of our reality. It's us being in the space connected to the facet of universal love or light that you subscribe to. holding that space and occupying that space in a way that facilitates connection with basically the space itself. And then it's the Three of Cups, so it's that like that communion type of energy. Now it's interesting. Oh, and then we got the Two of Wands, which is about new beginnings. But it's interesting because we had the Three of Cups in the bottom of the Five of Cups and the Two Cups above it. Here, it feels like there's a High Priestess energy here. But it's also an Empress energy. Because it feels like there's a veil here. And it's a partial understanding. And it's something that can almost never be fulfilled. Almost. Because the solid side is on our side. And on the other side, it's like this energy that things are listening and responding even when we don't necessarily think that they are. It's things that are communicated through the space of intention and directed consciousness, more so than anything else. And it's also this energy of like, when you say this one thing, you are also saying many other things. Nothing is in isolation. And so there's like this package beyond the package, which is why it's a little bit more conducive to take that zoomed out approach rather than to be hyper focused on any particular aspect of the physical experience. Because when we do that, we're not necessarily cognizant and aware of all of the other little preconceived implications, demands that we put on things. Because it's like we don't see that far out. The roots go a lot deeper and a lot farther than we may think. The card that came out is the Seven of Wands, which is interesting because, again, we have this Two of Wands, but it stands against five. Here's the Two of Wands. Here's the Seven of Wands. In the seven, we've taken those two wands in our hands. The bracelet of thorns implies a certain amount of respect or restraint. I don't know why respect. It implies a certain amount of restraint. Because again, we're building one square of this patchwork quilt. And so it's an interesting, like, it feels like an energy that kind of sort of like bounces back on itself. And so it's like if there's a pebble that you cast into a body of water to see the ripple effect, but the pebble bounces on the surface of the water. And so that ripple, it pulses. And if we skip the pebble, and if we use a little bit of consciousness, it's like we can outline a certain shape. And when it gets into non-linearity of space-time, basically if we can accelerate this pebble to the point where it occupies multiple spaces all at once, and again it's like bouncing off of the surface of the water, it creates this ripple pattern that outlines the space through which something can come. And it's like either that space where all of the different ripples sort of intersect, or where they don't. This Seven of Wands, it's a card of great restraint, honestly. Long story short, Oh gosh, what was this? What was this? I don't know. I kind of know, but then again, it's like, oof, girl, and my head is starting to hurt a little bit. It's interesting. It's interesting. That's what I'll say. I'll say it's interesting. Oh, I guess I'll. All right, final angel card. I'm feeling like, is it? No, I don't think it's Sandalphon. Yeah, I think it's like Sandalphon, the angel of like new life. Maybe a Gabriel. Oh, oh my gosh, that was like half the deck. Okay. I hope I got all my cards. My Mystic Mondays is still incomplete. And I'm like, the cards will show up when they show up. What'll probably happen is like when I move out, I may find them somewhere and I'll be like, oh my gosh, they were here the whole time. Okay, final card, Angelarium. Sandalphon, Angel of New Life. Did I say I was feeling like Sandalphon, Angel of New Life? I don't think I called him Suckliff. I might have called him Suckliff. But I'm pretty sure I said Angel of New Life. And here is Sandalphon, the Angel of New Life. Bottom of the deck is Matariel again, the Angel of Rain. So we got Rain and New Life. I like that. Love that. Okay. Let's get into Sandalphon. Let's get into Sandalphon. I'm loving it. Ba-da-da-da-da. I think he's like the last one. Yep, Sandalphon, Angel of New Life. This is interesting because it kind of looks like the full card in a different deck. I don't know what the deck is. But I think it's like the Sacred Clown in that deck. It reminds me of that. Maybe it's the colors. So, Sandalphon, Angel of New Life. When the time is right, the twin angel will return. Sandalphon was the first, and now we follow it forward along the shoreline and into the water. Sandalphon's footstep brings with it great fear, but also awe and hope. With each step, we move closer to the conclusion and a new beginning. Embrace this new epoch. What has come has already passed. What will be is still a dream. Sandalphon flows through it all. When a new era emerges, the blood of the twin angel brings fertility to everything it touches. Angelarium too was formed this way. So too will the next world, born in the wake of Sandalphon. Signs are a wheel within a wheel, a child, and a spiral. And people are calling the Great Conjunction the heralding of the age of Aquarius. A new era. Okay, work. I called it. Sometimes I just know. Sometimes I'm still wrong. But that time I wasn't. I was like, it's Sandalphon. It feels like Sandalphon, like all the way. Angel of the New Life. Here we go. All right, well, that's what I got. I'm going to put all of these away. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this, and I hope you're acting in alignment to make it even better. I hope you are taking advantage of every opportunity you have to just like give yourself, it's like the best opportunity you have to leave things in the past that no longer are, to fully embrace the things that come, the things that are still yet a dream. But it's like that's what this is kind of sort of about in some ways. It's learning how to take pieces and elements of dreams and to position and align yourself in a way to make them a reality, or to bring them closer and closer and closer to the edge of your reality for you to then make that full leap transition into. That's what I got. All right, I'll catch y'all whenever I catch y'all. I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying like resting, breaking, sleeping, napping, video games, things I haven't really been able to enjoy in a minute. Um, And yeah, it feels well deserved and hard earned. And I hope the same to be true for you. And if not, like, I'm not the type of person that'll be like, oh, it's too late. I just think it's easier when we set that precedent for ourselves. When it's something that we've practiced, when it's something that we've perfected in the way that we've perfected it, because some things will never necessarily be a step. Some things will always be a leap. But, like, when you've learned how to fly, then a leap is like, you know what I mean? Anyway, goodbye. Thanks, Capulus and Blooming Rose, for coming in. It's been fun. You too, no problem. Glad to be of service in some way, shape, form, and or fashion. Take it all as it resonates. And if it don't resonate, then better luck on the next video you come across.